All right, we're here because we had to just hit record. Jaclyn and I were popping off already, as we do. So, welcome, 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 everyone. Thank you for being with us. I was just telling Jaclyn, we were talking about our books. She has, as you're listening to this, her book just came out, and we're going to link it in the show notes. Immediately go get it. You're going to want it in your life. But I was sharing about my book, Unfuckwithable, for those of you on Jaclyn's podcast who maybe haven't met me yet. And when I wrote it, I just gave no fucks. Like it came out in 2023. I wrote it from 2022 to 2023. It was like an April to April writing phase. 1 year. I would love to talk about your book writing process too, because I'm sure we similarly vibe there because we both channel. It when it came out, like I was just in this energy of like truth, 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 truth. So I call a lot of stuff out in the book. And I was saying to Jaclyn before I just hit record here, in 2024 when I had my near death experience, it softened me. It made me super vulnerable and raw, which was beautiful for so many reasons, and I became so powerful in new ways, but I also didn't have this same like masculine power that got me so far. I felt very raw, I felt very vulnerable, I felt very lost. And I would reread my book and I'd be like, oh my God, I can't believe I said that. Like, are people gonna be mad at me? Because, like, I was just so vulnerable and so raw. And my book, Unfuckwithable, is exactly what you'd imagine. It is fucking truth. And sometimes the authentic truth is not comfortable to read.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it's not comfortable to read. It's not easy to receive. But this, for me, it's like, this is where we go into that depth with our people when we're willing to be bold and raw and vulnerable. And I love that we're starting off this podcast in this way. It's just like, boom, drop in. As we were talking, I'm like, no, we've got to hit record. We've got to get this energy moving in this podcast because this is why you and I just vibe so well together. We are truth tellers. And my book, Spiritual Smackdown, is a memoir. It's a personal memoir of an experience in my life that I call my spiritual smackdown. And similar to what you said there, it was when I was willing to get vulnerable. Like that's
Mm.
really where my truth came forward. I had been someone for, I mean, the majority of my life who was like, and I'm strong and I'm independent and I'm powerful and I'm all these things, but in a very like boom in your face, bold energy. And
Mm.
now I find, and throughout this book, I'm bold with my truth. And a lot of that power and truth comes from the vulnerability and being willing to go into the depth of, I mean, since mine's a memoir, I go into the depth of my experiences, my lived wisdom, and not holding back there. And it did take a lot of, courage to include some of the things in the book that I do include.
I'm so excited to read this book. I'd love to maybe just give a hint now to everyone listening. Can you share with us like one or a few of the spiritual smackdowns that you touch on in the book or that you've been through that allow us to see your vulnerability and your power? Can you talk to us about some of those spiritual smackdowns?
Yeah, so this book is actually based off like one experience in my life, and I call it my like ultimate spiritual smackdown. And it was 9 years ago. So this book has actually been 9 years in the making. I do feel like we probably have some similar writing
For
journey,
sure, for sure.
but this book was 9 years in the making because I knew in the moment in September of 2016 that I had this experience, one for myself, and then ultimately to share it with the world. Like there's a very clear defining moment where it's like, I'm going to write a book. And at that time, I had no desire. Like this is 9 years ago. I had no desire to speak on stages, to write books. And
Mm,
yet it felt so clear that that's what was part of this experience. And I mean, the short version of it was an 8 month experience of my life when I was 3 months pregnant with my daughter, found out my husband was having an affair, and was really the catalyst for my spiritual remembrance, for my awakening, for me coming back into self. Before this, I had always kind of toe dipped in my beliefs, toe dipped in conversations with God, toe dipped in spirituality. And I was like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And this was when there was a deep drop into my own divine truth, my own divine remembrance. experiences that taught me about the depth of my capacity to love, forgiveness, judgment, peace, surrender, letting go. Like it was a really 8-month period of my life that transformed the woman that I am today.
Oof. I'm getting crazy physiological response to this, Jaclyn, and of course we had to have this conversation. In 2016, I went through something similar with my now husband, and it in ways that I didn't consciously know at the time because I was going to university for clinical kinesiology. I was working with the body, I was working with energy, but not at all in the way that I do now. I went through a very similar situation, and without knowing it consciously, it catapulted me into what I do now. And the I remember feeling so lost and hurt and scared and ashamed and all these horrible feelings. But at the same time, I felt this immediate forgiveness and understanding. I was like, and I didn't even have this spiritual language I have now. I didn't do any of this work. I wasn't talking to God the way that I talk to God every day. It wasn't anything like that. But I had this innate, immediate sense of, I understand and I get it and I forgive. And it was so instantaneous. And the hardest thing for me was feeling like, because conditioning and programming is so intense, and for me it was specifically at that time in 2016, I was, or I guess it was 2018 for me. It was 2018 for me. I was young, I was in university, the conditioning was so intense. And for me, it was like, well, now we have to break up. Now we have to break up. Now we have to break up. And that killed me because in every cell in my body, I knew this is my husband. This is the father to my children. This is my soulmate. And it like killed me to think, well, now we have to break up. And I had this life-changing conversation with my mom, and she's the founder of Renewal Retreats, spiritual teacher. She's been doing this long before it was cool. And she just said to me, no, you don't. Why would you have to break up? This is an opportunity to heal. This is an opportunity to grow. This is an opportunity to evolve together if you choose it to be. And that was like the first time in my life that I realized, oh, it doesn't have to be what we see in the movies. There doesn't have to be this blowout. There doesn't have to be this hatred. There doesn't have to be this judgment, this shame, this punishment, this resentment. It gets to be love that leads. And it's something that changed my life profoundly. So, Jaclyn, you were 3 months pregnant at this time, and I want everyone to read your book, and I want to read your book immediately. But what were the like at the time, were you aware of your spirituality the way that you are now? What was that like spiritually, or was it just more emotional at the
I
time?
mean, I would say absolutely not aware of my spirituality the way that I am now. Like, in fact, at the time, using the word God was like absolutely not. And, but similar to what you just said there, it was this immediate, like, I felt my soul self coming forward. There was immediate truth that I felt that I couldn't deny, no matter, like, and my human wanted to deny the truth that I felt. Like, my ego wanted to step in and, you know, say like fuck you and all of these things and walk away from my, like there was so much within this and I kept going back to what's like true inside of me. And what was true inside me is not what I had always said, was not what I always thought. You know, I was very much in the beginning, and the tagline of the book, so it's the spiritual smackdown from victim to goddess, and really my journey of where I kept teeter-tottering. It's like I felt this goddess energy. I felt the divine within me communicating with me. And yet there was so many moments where I fall into victimhood, where I get caught up in the illusions of the human realm, where that conditioning takes over. And I really was not afraid to go to those places in the book to show the not so pretty sides of me and the not so pretty choices that I made, because within that is how I also came to the wisdom and the codes that I now hold and I now carry But in fact, when you ask about like my connection, my spirituality at the time, but 2 days after I found out, there was this woman, and she stayed in my life since. She's an incredible woman and an incredible channel, and a bunch of my friends had seen this woman, and they're like, you need to have a session with her. And I got on this session with her and was just like, all I wanted was for her to tell me like I was going to be okay. All I wanted was for her to tell me like that this was like, we could slap a band-aid solution on this and it was going to be over. Like I really just wanted answers from her. And in the beginning of our session, she was like, God's here and God loves you. And I see you speaking on stages and God wants to work through you and these lessons in love and surrender and trust and faith. And I was like, I was pissed. I was pissed. I was like, I don't care what God wants. I don't want to speak about God. I don't care that Jesus wants to work through me. Like, fuck this shit. I just want to know what happens next in my life because right now I feel like this like I feel broken right now. I feel heartbroken. I feel like I don't know what to do next. Like, don't tell me what you see in my future, blah, blah, blah. Well, now here we are 9 years later, and all I
Wow.
want to do is have conversations about God and love and truth.
Mm. Oh, I love this. I know this exact feeling, and I'm sure you listening are feeling this when you've had a moment where the rug is ripped from underneath you and you have no other option. It's you either give up, and there was a time, and I'm sure you had a time where you just were like, fucking kill me now because like this is the end of the world. Like that's how it felt for me. And I've had a few things since that have felt like that. And it's like option one, kill me now. Option two, I'm surrendering to God's plan in the
Yeah.
biggest way. And
And
yo, go.
this is where I say I'm like I feel like God no option to me. Like I was
Yes.
really in that place. My son was
Yep.
about to turn 2 years old. I have my daughter I'm 3 months pregnant with, and it was like there really is no other option. My daughter had some health complications, and I was like, I can't live like this. I can't hold on to this stress. I can't sit in rage and anger because her life literally depended on it.
Wow. Yeah. So I'd love to talk about the years after. So my for in my situation, I had lived most of my life I was basically, if someone was like, looked at me, they'd be like, she's the happiest person in the world. I was always happy. I was always joyful. Everything was light and easy. I did well at everything. It was also easy for me. Everything was easy for me. I was like the walking embodiment of magnetism, and everything was just really easy. And then I had in 2016, I had my parents went through something. My parents were they were the embodiment of, I want to be your parents when I grow up. Everyone said that. Your parents are so cute. I want to be them when I grow up. They were in love from what we saw. And in 2016, the rug was slipped from under me. They separated. It came out of nowhere. Now they got back together. They're together. My dad just dropped off firewood at my house, like literally 5 minutes before I hit record with you. Like my parents are together, in love more than ever, but they went through their whole journey because come on, like it's life, right? But anyways, that fucked with me so much in 2016. It made me think I can't trust anyone. I can't trust anything. Nothing is real. It shook my foundation in a crazy way. 2 years, so that really created, I started to develop a lot of control, which I never had. I was that girl that's like, I do whatever I want, whenever I want. I was great at everything. Nothing was like literally would just do whatever the fuck I want. I had so much trust in life, so much trust in life. That happened. I started to develop anorexia athletic tendencies. I started to develop really intense like control over my schooling, like which was so not me, perfectionism, all these like control techniques. 2 years later is when Mitch, my now husband, and I, he moved to Australia. He lived there for a year for work. We were long distance for a year. We went through a really difficult time as a couple in terms of not trusting each other. And it was like really intense. And that was like that next level of I can't trust, I don't trust anyone. Um, Control, control, control. I started to really dive into what I did at the time in clinical kinesiology and work with the body in such like a obsessive way. So I was obsessive about my clients' results. I was obsessive about my results. It was like the thing that I could control and I could trust. Like I do this and this, and then I get this. Anyways, then I graduated school. I found God in that sense and trust in that sense. And I was raised by my parents and my mom who like love is our religion. Like we own a retreat center. My family owns a retreat center. Our family's legacy is love and light. Like spirituality is everything to us. And but I found God, my own relationship with God that I believe I am God. I believe we are one, but it was like that. I had no choice but to surrender in those moments. And then I graduated school and I got into what I do now, podcasting, communing, channeling, running retreats, working with clients. And the first couple years into it, a lot of those old control tendencies were still really present in what I was building. And they were installed when I had the rug swept from under me. And then they lasted up until pretty much 2024 of last year when I had my near death experience. And then it was one of those other situations of like, this can no longer go on the way it's going. We have to release control completely. We have to let go completely. And for the last year plus, almost 2 years now, I've been living in that surrender experience, which is magical. But I'd love to riff on this, Jaclyn. After that happened, and you're feeling all the things, you're feeling the rage, but the forgiveness, the knowing, and the uncertainty, all that at once. Did you start to develop any like control paradigm? Like was control a thing for you?
So you and I are almost flipped here. Like we're
Okay.
almost the opposite. I grew up and I was like very rebellious. I was very like uh, rebellious, had this prove it energy. I was more in let me control everything from the like, and I know best, and I'm again this strong and this independent. And so I feel like I was the opposite. It was like I was
Mm,
in the control, and then it was the surrender of the control that really embarked on this journey that I went on for eight
wow.
months of the spiritual smackdown. And why this was so powerful is what I really started to see that I was using control to try to establish certainty. So before I
Mm,
was like, if I can control it, then I can be certain, then I know, then I'm not going to get hurt, then I'm not going to be disappointed. And then guess what happened? I was I was hurt. I was heartbroken. And so I avoided love for a long time because I knew that that was a possibility and I didn't want that to be a possibility. So what's the easiest way for that not to happen? Well, cut it off. Don't actually open your heart up. Don't allow yourself to be loved. Like build these walls. And
mm,
so a big piece for me was in the let go of this and really finding certainty in the uncertainty. And it was almost like I just became so certain that everything is uncertain. And so, if everything is uncertain, like I cannot predict tomorrow, you cannot predict tomorrow. Something may happen 5 minutes after this conversation that changes your life, that changes my life, that changes the life of somebody listening, and we don't see it right now. And so, the more that we try to control, the more we take ourselves out of that essence, the more that we block God, the more we create limitations in our energy field because we're saying like, oh, here, let me navigate this, let me control this, I've got this. Well, again, it creates that roadblock there. And so
mm,
becoming really like trusting in myself, feeling safe in the unknown is what was one of the most powerful parts for me.
yeah. Let's go there now because I think this is like the master key to the fucking universe and to like thriving in life is being so okay in the unknown. And there's a lot of clues and codes that we can learn about our destiny by how we were when we were young and less programmed. So I hear you saying you're more rebellious. And it's interesting because I still see that in you. I know we've only hung out in person once. We had that dinner, but I got that energy from you in like obviously a pure queen goddess like powerful way, but I was like, oh, she's like a rebel. Like I just felt it. um so it's like I'm sure that was your natural essence. You came into earth that way, and then maybe some people didn't get it, and then you probably felt like, well, I need to prove to them that I actually am doing this right. But of course I want to hear your personal story on that. But I know for me, like if I really think back to the true essence of me, it really is carefree. Like I was just a carefree person, and I was like that. It got me where I am. It got me to a certain stage until I started to feel like it's not safe to be carefree. I need to now know everything that's coming. Like it was, and we see this time and time again. I've had a lot of experience with this with clients where they develop these control, whether it's through the business, parenting, through their bodies, through relationships. They develop this control to feel safe. And for me, it's like I developed that control, and then God came in and swept in again with my near death experience. And I had known, like by that time, I had written my book Unfuckwithable. I have a whole chapter on the edge of evolution, which is kind of like spiritual smackdown. It's like the intense moments where you really do find your surrender. Um, so I had already known these things, and I was integrating them in little ways, right? Like doing what we do for a living, Jaclyn, like we're already fucking crazy. You know what I mean? Like this is what we do for a living. Like it's pretty bold, it's courageous, it's rebellious, it's new, it's different. But that never felt like doing what we do. I feel like you're probably the same. I feel like we've vibed on this. I never felt like I'm so rebellious for doing this or I'm so courageous for doing this. I've done many things in my life that most people wouldn't do that I don't consider rebellious. For me, it's just my nature,
Well,
you know?
I feel like standing in our truth now is oftentimes considered rebellious. And so I love that you are like
Yeah.
felt that essence within you because the big difference for me was when I was younger, when I was, a teenager, my young 20s. I do have that natural rebellious energy, but I feel like I've always had this natural rebellious energy because it was more that I was always willing to be who I am, to
Yeah.
not to not change who I am because of what other people thought of me. It's like this is like I am who I am. Like, take it, leave it, love it, hate it. That's not going to change who I am. That I've always carried. But then I went into this like prove it energy and not prove it because I want you to like me, but like prove it like no matter what you think of me, like I'm right kind of energy. So there was like that rebellious energy.
Yeah.
And then the rebellion that I feel within me right now more feels like this holy essence, this holy fire. Like, example is that when this book was coming out, I had a spiritual mentor of mine who's a best-selling author who is basically like taking me under his wing, was like, and we are gonna do this, and I'm gonna write the forward for your book, and I'm gonna give it to my literary agent, and we're gonna make this a bestseller, all of these things. And then he read the book. His first response to me was how emotionally captivating it is, that it's filled with great wisdom. He's like, I cannot wait. Like, I'm so happy to write the forward of this book for you. And then 6 weeks later, he asked me to have a conversation with him. And for 45 minutes, I sat on a call like this with him where he heavily tried to convince me not to put this book out in the world, where he said,
Mm-hmm.
it's too shameful. It's too
Mm-hmm.
shameful to be put in print for the world to read. And my rebellious nature there wasn't to say like, fuck you, you're wrong, and I'm going to do it anyways. My rebellious nature was actually I sat there and listened to him for 45 minutes. Like I sat and heard his reasons why and
Yeah.
ultimately looked at the book again. Was like, do I feel like there's truth in his words? Am I willing to take out the story when he says like if you take out the story it'll become a bestseller? And I wasn't willing. And actually, what that made me do was become more convicted in the truth, in my voice, in the story, and sharing it exactly as I experienced it. And
Yep.
so the rebellion didn't end up being against him. He's still a mentor in my life who I have a lot of profound respect for. And at the same time, it brought me into my truth that nobody else is the authority in my life. Nobody else knows the truth over my truth. And I can't let somebody else's promises of what this could be change what I know that I'm here to do. And so
Mm.
I'd say that theme of the rebellious nature for me has always been, can I be more of who I
Yep.
am? And I think this
Yep.
is consistent in both of our work. And You said something a little bit back about the safety that we then experience. For
Hmm.
me, the only way I can feel truly safe is if I'm being fully who I am. As soon as I am willing to compromise my voice or compromise my truth in any way, well, of course I don't feel safe because I'm not being that true divine essence of me.
Mm. Oh, girl. I know that everyone listening is like buzzing. I'm so much resonance. With my book, Unfuckwithable, as you can see, it's unfuckwithable. There's no star here. That was a big thing I got a lot. And I would talk to agents, I would talk to managers, I would talk to literary gurus, and they're all like, "Yeah, you need to put that needs to be a star. That the U needs to be a star. The U needs to be a star. The U needs to be a star." And I was like, "That's not how I see it. That's just not how the book is. That's not what it is." I also ran up to so much. So if anyone, well, everyone on my podcast has read my book, but for anyone new on Jaclyn's podcast who hasn't read my book, you will find a lot of spelling errors. You will find a lot of grammar errors. You will find a lot of unconventional ways of writing because I channeled the whole thing. And I was so specific. I had four editors, but they would send me things and I would just say no. And I would just disagree with them all the time.
Oh
But
my, you and I are the exact same. Like, I'm gonna let you finish, but exact same. Like, I think I
yeah,
have three different editors, and same thing. I was like, yeah, no, yeah, no. And one
yeah.
of the first editors, she's like, I know that you're probably gonna disregard 90% of this, and I was like, yep.
But I think the key, and I loved what you said there when you sat in the discomfort, I think, and I'm with like I'm a Taurus. I'm one of those people that most of my life it's like I'm so authentically me and it comes across stubborn that I have to check myself often. I have to check my own ego a lot of the time and I'm like, is this ego or is this intuition? Because my ego loves to be right, but my intuition knows what's right as well.
Yeah.
And most of the time it matches, but sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's my ego. So when you were describing there how you sat in it in that discomfort for 45 minutes of like, okay, let me assess, like let me self-assess. Is there truth in what this man is sharing? I had to do the same thing with my book of and every day in my life of like, is this my ego or is this my intuition? Most recently, and I feel Jaclyn, you and I vibe on this so much, the whole like the inauthenticity with super intelligence, AI, and all of that, I have such an innate intuitive allergic reaction to all of it. And there are many things that normal, most people, like the average human being, adopts without question that I don't adopt without question. It's not even like I spend a lot of time debating it or researching it. I just get this instant no, and then I just don't let it be a part of my life. And
Yeah.
I just go, this is not a part of my life. I don't, it's not my life's purpose to stand here, and die on that hill and like explain why. But I just know if it's not my truth, it's not my truth. And then I just go in a completely different direction. It was the same thing with my book. It was when everyone's telling me, okay, well, you've got all these spelling errors, or this is a run on three fucking like sentence, like this is a long sentence. And I'm like, that's how it's channeling out. This is God. This isn't even me. And I say this all the time. I didn't even write this. Like this was written through me. I don't own this. Like it comes through me. And that's how it was meant to be presented. So that's how it's going to be presented. I don't give a fuck if it's conventionally correct. And there's all these times where it's like my ego would want to my ego would go through these phases of like, oh, if I just, listen to them and I could be published with this publisher if I just put a star there. But it's like, but that's not it for me. And it's the same,
Yeah.
it's like there's temptations and I describe it as this like, I'm at this place now of having such a relationship with my truth that if I do have an ego temptation, it doesn't feel so intense inside me. It's more like I'm watching it and I'll see like the ego temptation. And it's in what we do for work, it's tempting to the ego, not to our true selves, but to the ego to be like, if I just did it this way, I could probably go viral. If I did it this way, I could probably have hundreds of thousands more followers. If I did it this way, I could and I just did this funnel and I used ChatGPT and I did all the things that everyone else is doing to make my sales pages and whatnot. It could probably go like this. But I've had these real like allergic reactions to those things. And then I just sit down with myself and I'm like, I'm not participating in that. That's
Mm.
maybe that's what works for some people. Maybe that's what's logical for some people. And maybe that's what like the trends are going that way. But I've always stayed true to the way I do it. And for me, it's like me and God, me and Source. Miracles are normal for me. So I don't need to try to like beat algorithms. I'm working with consciousness in a different way. And the rules do not apply to me at all.
I literally said those words just recently on social media. It's like, I've just decided the rules don't apply to me. Like, I've absolutely decided the rules that don't apply to me because for me, I want to trust that God's conspiring in my favor because I'm conspiring in my favor. And so,
Yeah.
if I'm willing to compromise who I am, if I'm willing to compromise my truth, if I'm willing to not listen to my intuition, well, then I don't trust myself. I don't believe that or conspiring in my favor. So then of course, I can't expect God to meet me there because I'm not in that frequency with Him. And
Yep.
so I
Yep.
absolutely love this because I will tell you, and it's funny because I'm the opposite in the book. There's the little star with me for the word fuck that's in my book multiple times. And I love when I see the title of your book that there is no star. And for me, I feel like I was the opposite. I was the one who would always just say fuck, 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 and rebellious and in your face. And the truth is that this experience was more about that like softening. And so what felt correct for me and funny that sometimes I spelled it out and sometimes I put a star. And then there was, the first editor of my book, she was like, you do like dot 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 in a lot of places. Like that's not really correct. And I was like, but when I was writing it, I was taking a breath then. It was like I
Yeah.
was taking a breath. And so I actually really felt it was important, like you, to bring people right into the experience with me. If I paused before I read the next sentence, I want my readers to pause before the next sentence.
Yeah.
I mean, there's 84 chapters in my book. It is not a
Ooh.
huge book. It's like 300 pages, but it's 84 chapters because guess what? Some of the chapters are literally 3 sentences.
Yep.
And they were like, well, it makes sense. And it makes sense for the page count and for this. Like, and this, you're almost talking about a similar thing that you did in this last chapter. So what if we just merge them? And I was like, nope. Like, this is a stand on its own. And I'm cool with it being 3 sentences. And similar, sometimes it's like, well, that sentence that comes next, we could just bump it up and it could connect to the last
Mm.
paragraph. And I was like, nope, like that's not the way. And not to get too deep in this, but I had a whole experience and whole journey where I thought I was going to work with a traditional publisher, and I didn't self-publish, but I worked with a blended publisher,
Mm.
and I can see now in hindsight I had been so attached to the traditional publishing route, and thank God I didn't go that route. Like thank God there was some quite interesting blocks on that pathway for me because I wouldn't have then been able to have this like final say on things like that. These details that are so important to me mattered. I wouldn't have had that choice
Oh.
with a traditional publisher. So like the fact that this is the pathway, this is why we always have to trust like God's got his hand in everything, even when
Oh.
we can't see it, even when it goes against what we think we want from our human lens at that moment in time.
Mm. Mm. Fuck yeah. Yeah, no, totally. Um, I wanna talk a little bit like book stories are gonna come up because we can't help ourselves because we're both just like when you write a book, it's like giving birth to a baby. So it's like you want to talk about it because you're like, yeah, tell me about your birth story. You know, it's like it's so intimate like that. But I want to speak about this consciousness of being so unwilling to sacrifice what you know in your truth, whether you call it intuition, whether you call it truth, whether whatever you call it, like this is what separates me from the rest, you from the rest, you listening from the rest. This is what makes us who we fucking are, you guys. Like when we are so devoted to what we actually know is true in our bodies, we are free. We are so free. Like that, there is nothing I can't do.
Yeah.
because I do what I want. And it comes down to the smallest details of your life. It's how you choose to spend your day, how you choose to spend your time, and then it comes to the big moments when you're talking to a publisher. And you're I know for me, my ego, especially back around 2022, 2023 when my book was coming out, this was like huge Saturn return ego death times for me. My ego was like so strong. Like I was really like thriving off my external success at that point in my life. I was like mid to late 20s, making a lot of money, hot, healthy. Like I just was like, I'm the fucking queen of the world. And a lot of it was ego. A
Yeah.
lot of it was soul. And like there's so much that came through that people like I changed more lives probably in like 2022, 2023 than I ever have, just because I was like, do not get in my fucking way. It's like lead me, follow me, or get the fuck out of my way. Like I was so dialed, but there was also so much ego, and the ego was really supportive to me at that time because it really like pulled me and pushed me. Um, but there was a lot of ego there, and so the ego was really strong around like when my book was coming out, of like I really want a traditional publisher, because then all the people who never understood me will be like, oh, but she is like published with this publisher. Like I just really wanted like a big publisher to like just take me and be like, we vouch what she's doing. She's legit in the world. And it was like, but if I really sit down and like look at it, that was all ego. The only reason I wanted to go with a mainstream publisher was to fulfill my ego of certain metrics I'd want to hit, validation, proving. I have an open heart in my human design. There's like a lot of that like was so messy at the time. Now sitting where I sit in this moment and having the spiritual smackdown, or as I would say, edge of evolution that I had with my near death experience, where I was completely stripped of my ego. It was just like the ultimate ego death, to be lying in the hospital and just being like, I'm fucking, like, I fucking died and I'm out here now. Like it was raw. It was
Yeah.
hard. For months, I couldn't do anything. Couldn't make money the ways I used to make money. Didn't look the way I used to look. My body couldn't perform the way it used to perform. It was a total ego death for me, multiple ego deaths. And I'm so grateful for it because I actually know what peace is now. I actually know what freedom is now. I actually know what genuine, like, pure happiness is now, that's not conditional to
Yeah.
something outside of me. But that, like, let's go here, because I want to hear and I want to share, and I want to hear it like day to day, how we just why we are sitting here, who we are in the world, because we do not do anything that we don't want to do. Like if my soul does not agree, I will not do it. I will not do it.
Yeah.
I get severely allergic to it and I will not do it. Talk to me about that in your life, Jaclyn. I'm curious.
So words I often say to myself on repeat is I'm not willing to deny my soul. Like I am just not willing to deny my soul. And the big thing with this, I think this is where people sometimes get confused because they think the decisions I make sense to me. And oftentimes
Yeah.
they don't make sense to me. Like it's not that they
No.
don't like, yeah, they don't make sense to the world because half the times they don't make sense to me. I don't know why I feel called to go left when I really think I should go right. I don't know why I feel called to stand so strong in this, but this is one thing that my clients definitely come into my world for and that they are calibrating to is that
Yep.
conviction of self, that knowing of self. And I know when I do let the ego take over, when I drop into the moments of, self-righteousness, when I
Mm,
am not listening to my soul self. Like I believe God's from within us. So when I'm not moving in that frequency, well, that's where it's hard to have trust. That's where it's hard to have faith again, because I know deep inside of me, I'm compromising in my truth. I'm compromising in my voice. I'm compromising in who I am. That's why I think important for things like writing a book. It's like, well, just change this word here so it makes it more comfortable for the listener so they get it. Well, that dilutes the frequency. And
mm,
I lead everything in my work as a mentor. It's through the lens of frequency and energetics. And
yep.
so that to me is more important than anything else. people
Yep.
feel frequency before they read your words, before they hear what you're saying. And so if you're not doing it from a place of conviction, a place of knowing, a place from truth, you're already losing people. You're already losing the people that are truly aligned for you, that you get to be the answer to their prayers because you're willing to, step outside yourself.
Mm. Yeah, it really is this. I know the last 2 weeks, the work, like the work is the work is the work, it's 24/7, no days off, alignment, constant. But the last 2 weeks, particularly since coming back from our honeymoon and just being back like in the world, in like the dense world, being out of Europe and just being out of that like lifestyle, I'm like, oh wow, yeah, fear is here, and I'm not subscribing. Anyways, I really have been just constantly like, is this truth, or is this my soul, or is this my spirit, or whatever that word would be for you, or is this fear, or is this ego? And I used to not really use the word ego a lot, but it's helping me so much in my, because it's just a word that I think our brains can conceptualize really instantly. So in the moments, like when I'm just out in the world interacting, it's like, does my soul want to do this, or does my ego want to do this? And if your ego wants to do this, and I find it always, new levels, new devils, it gets very sneaky and refined at certain levels. But for me, it's been a lot of like very sneaky people pleasing, which I'm beginning to really recognize that people pleasing is such a manipulation of the hologram and such an egotistical manipulation of energy. Because if you're people pleasing, you want to be perceived a certain way. You want to be loved, you want to be validated. You want to take someone else's validation, basically. If you're people pleasing, it's not coming from soul kindness. It's not coming from soul truth. It's not kind. And I've become so, in the last 2 weeks particularly, allergic to people pleasing because I see it for what it is. It's so inauthentic. And it's not, it's, go ahead, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and it's actually going back to loop the conversation from earlier, it's a form of control. I want to control how you perceive
Yeah.
me, how you experience me. That's not, again, that is not truth frequency.
100%. It is not truth. And I've had these incredible, very nuanced little tests from life the last 2 weeks. I had a really interesting one. We talked about the whole AI thing. I had a really unique one yesterday where it presented itself to me last week, but then it's been sort of circulating, and it was layered because it was partnered with two people that I love so much and want to support and just love them, really good friends of mine. And it was paired with that and AI and their this new venture they're doing, and them wanting to bring Uplift Lifestyle, my company, on board. And it was like, oh, how unique. It's now not only because I immediately know this isn't for me, this isn't my truth, but then it's layered with, oh, but do you really want to let these people that you love down? Do you really want to say no? Do you really? And then it was just this clean clear on the full moon yesterday. I was just like, here's the truth. This is what my intuition's saying. I'm sorry. I love you, but no. And it was just so clean. And I literally was like, right after I sent that email, I was just like, oh, like I'm me again. Like it's so instantly validating. The hologram adjusts instantly, reality adjusts instantly when you move in truth, when you move in alignment every fucking time.
Absolutely. And then I feel like it's so important to understand that you're going to have those moments where you are tempted, where you're tempted to say yes for whatever reason. And you
Yep.
said soul and ego. I use the word soul and human. So it's like, okay, is this my soul self or is this my human self? And for me, the human self means where I'm operating from conditioning or where I'm getting caught up in the mind game or that human lens of limitation. And I think it's also really important to not shame ourselves for having those human thoughts or those human moments. And so for me, what always opens up the energy field is, am I willing to sit in sacred witness of myself? Am I willing to sit in awareness and ask myself the question,
Mhm.
like, is this my soul or my ego, my soul or my
Yep.
human trying to step in and take over here? And where I see people tend to kind of go sideways is when they shame the human self for even having the human thought. So it's like,
Mm.
oh, well, I considered, like maybe you considered saying yes to that for a moment. And then instead of just being like, nope, stand in my power, say no, you could have fallen into this pattern then where you're like, oh my gosh, like I don't like making it mean something that you even considered
Yeah.
thinking about it. It's like, well, no, you're a human and you're gonna play with different energies and different ideas. And even though you remember who you are at the soul level, there's gonna be moments where fear comes in. It's not about never experiencing that, it's who you choose to be within that experience. And
Hmm.
this is what it comes back to is the power of choice, recognizing we always get to choose. You said earlier you decided not to subscribe to that. You said earlier, like you're not available, like you just, the rules, you're not going to play by those rules. We always have choice in what we choose in any given moment. Like, who do I choose to show up with while this experience is happening in my life?
Yeah, completely. It's so you know what? I think for the first few years of any really bold and, ambitious, driven type of person, the first few years doing it, there is like a chip on your shoulder. There is a lot if you feel like you have to prove. There is that sense of, wanting to be understood, but also wanting to just be like, fuck you, I told you I could do it. And there's all these things going on. And there's just this real desire to forge the path through control, forge the path through I told you so. And a lot of there's this blurring of, well, what do I even want? And I think for the first few years of like being in the control paradigm, but also being in the I'm doing it very differently paradigm, like I was very much like gonna go to med school, gonna go down that route. And I just completely was like, nope, I'm starting a wellness podcast over here and like completely going on this route. And for me, that felt really normal and safe. It did not feel wild by any means. But I didn't really know what motivated me. I just knew I was being pulled. Where now I'm at this place in my life where there's nothing more important to me than my freedom, which equates to my peace. Like my feeling of like, yeah, I'm I'm doing what I want. So years ago, I might be tempted to manipulate the hologram and manipulate the physical form to get somewhere faster, or to, if I do this, I get this. If I do this, I get that. Because I was just so driven by something outside of me, where accessing innate freedom, internal freedom, innate peace, internal peace, and being like, I'm turning down that money, I'm turning down that opportunity, I'm turning down that because it is fucking with my peace and my freedom. There's nothing more like unfuckwithable than that. And that's how I feel now, where I know what matters to me and it's my freedom and my peace. So I will not say yes to something unless I want to do it. I would do it for free. I would do it all day long. I can't wait to do it. Like, I just won't do it. It's like, that's why there's so many reasons that a couple years ago when my ego, wanted to go down the traditional publishing route, I would probably find myself saying yes to things that my soul was not in full congruence with. So I want to riff Jaclyn back and forth. Like, in your, like, what is your freedom or your peace or your motivator? Because you get to a place where you're like, okay, I've proven to myself that I can make this money. I've proven to myself that I have this impact. Okay, cool, cool, cool. Now what's actually important? What actually drives me? Like, what's that for you, and how do you move with that every day?
I mean, so much like what you've shared here. And of course, this doesn't surprise me, but during my spiritual smackdown, the word really was peace for me. That feeling of peace was like my guidepost. Is this going to bring me peace? And if it's going to take me out of my peace, I'm not willing to choose it. And so that's where I had to start recoding like my ways of operating, my ways of being, where I would go in and try to manipulate the energetics. And that's what ultimately was leading to that. Like the core for me is feeling free, free in my expression, free to be who I really am. And so I feel like these three words, truth, peace, freedom, are very connected and intertwined in this way. And I've had a whole journey with entrepreneurship and coming in power with my voice, and then I'd say losing my voice, and then stepping back
Mm-hmm.
in with my voice. And one of the pieces on this journey for me was when I think there's two things actually: the freedom to be who I am, which means like I'm unfuckable with in the sense of bringing back that essence, love me or hate me. Like I know that there's going to be people that who are very triggered by my book. I know that there's people that
Mm-hmm.
are going to judge me, that are currently judging me, and not letting that impact me being the voice of truth, not letting that impact me being the fullest expression of who I am. That created so much freedom for me. That created so much liberation because all of a sudden I stopped not doing things or saying things because I was worried about how other people perceived me. I really started to decide like other people's experiences of me are none of my business. That was a big piece.
Mm-hmm.
And then I really brought forward what felt most important to me in the way in which I operate my business. And in 2023, I've never picked like words for the year, but I entered 2023 really shifting away from a multiple seven-figure business that I had built. It came to completion at the end of 2022 simply because I felt complete with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I really was like, I'm going to dedicate like my energy to living and loving. And it was really like operating in the frequency of love, living my life, being more present in the moments in my life with my kids, like
Mm-hmm.
intentional about the words and the way that I write a book. And it just really felt like this was such a strong energy for me to bring forth. And then in August of that year, my dad died very suddenly.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the energy that he really represented, was living and loving and just like
Mm-hmm.
living life and being free. And right after his death, what I really felt called to lead it and talk about was my navigation of like what I believe at a soul level about death and our human experience, and also my human navigating like losing someone that you love.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, my podcast, now I'm going to talk about this on my podcast. It made no sense. Like at the time I was a business coach. I hadn't really owned who I
Mm-hmm.
am as a spiritual mentor, but I just became so free. And if my podcast, if my work is about living and loving, I get to share all of it. I get to share all of me. I get to share the human sadness. I get to show up not in the perfect light of who I am as a mentor and a leader. And
Mm-hmm.
that created a whole other opening for me because again the call was, can I be more of who I am? Can I just share my
Yep.
truth in all of the ways and share through my lived experience and share through the heartbreak and share through the joy and share through all of it? Can I own, I would say this is where I really before only wanted to share like the divine parts of me, like when I was in my divinity and connected to God, and it was like, no, can I let people see me in my humanness as well?
Mm. Oh yeah. And I love this, Jaclyn. I resonate so much. It's what I've come to realize in letting down so many walls and letting down so many like really just I call it manipulating the hologram, where it's like you're really just trying to strategize in the hologram, and it's just such an ego thing. And it gets you to a certain level, but then once you cross the line and it's you cross that line in the sand, it's like it just doesn't work like that. When you work for God, when you work for source, when you are channeling codes, like there can't be any incongruence.
No.
You will not be happy, you will not be healthy, you will not be prosperous if there is incongruence there. And I really, yeah, it's just this, I will not manipulate the hologram. And there's the only thing that is sustainable is authenticity. It's the only thing that's sustainable. And I'm grateful as much as, of course, my past self wishes, that I was a New York Times bestselling author the year my book came out, and that I was doing these worldwide book tours and having all these amazing, global accolades. But I was still, if I'm being 100% honest with myself, I was still operating from ego, and it would not be sustainable. And the only thing that's sustainable is 100% authenticity and being like, what do I actually want to do? And I think I was, and I'm sure you can resonate, and I know a lot of people listening can resonate. I was so driven, but I was motivated and I was abandoning myself, like that's why I had the near death. I was abandoning myself for my dreams. So it was like, I'll do another event, I'll do another workshop, I'll do another book signing. I was like a spiritual rock star, and my soul was like screaming. It's like, okay, just because you're doing like God's work, what about you? Like it was, and I just always felt like I was on the outside of it. Like I would run a retreat and 20 people there and they're all getting this massive transformation, and I wouldn't feel that sense of fulfillment at the end of the day. I'd feel like exhausted and drained. And it's because I was abandoning myself for my dream, not realizing that I am the dream. I am it. None of it exists without me. I'm creating everything. None of it exists without me. I am it. I am the dream. And therefore, doing what I want moment to moment of every single day, even when it's uncomfortable, to choose that. That's the only thing that will ever bring me happiness. And that's the only thing that is sustainable because
Yeah.
it's actually authentic.
Yeah, I feel like if it takes from me, I'm just not willing. Like if it takes energy, everything I bring in my business now, and this is not the way I used to operate before, but everything I do in my business now, it has to also give to me. It has to nurture me because if not, if I'm following any type of should, like you said, it's not sustainable. And I I feel like that's not in service to my clients either. If it
Mm-mm.
comes with any sort of compromise in my energy field, and again, I lead so much in energetics and frequency, it's so important to me that this is pristine, that there is no incongruency here, that there is no distortion here. And so it's gotta give to me as much as I give to it, or I'm just not
Mm.
available for it.
100% period. Mic drop. Okay, we should wrap this up. Although I have no idea what the time is, because this is a great example. I could do this all day. This is
Absolutely.
what I fucking live
Absolutely.
for. Like I could do this all fucking day. I live for this. I live for working with my clients. I live for running retreats, and I live for sharing what I write and speak in the world that is coming from source. Like I could do this all fucking day, but I want to
And that's
close
what it's
out.
supposed to be like, right? Like this
Oh,
is what your business, your life is supposed to be like,
yeah.
doing the things that feel like I can do it all day because it gives, like this conversation gives to me. It gives me life force energy. It brings me back into the divine remembrance, not just of who I am, but who you are, who we all are. Like
Mm.
you're supposed to feel this holy fire within you.
Oh yeah. Oh God, yeah. Like this gives to me. And similarly to you, Jacqueline, I got to this place and I don't even call my business a business anymore. I won't even call it a business. I call it my life's work. And I'm simply paid to exist anyway. So I don't have any more hologram manipulation going on where I do this, I get that. If I sell this many books, I get this. If I have this many clients, I just don't even engage in that. My source, me, we know our standards of living. That's a no-brainer. We will maintain and elevate our standards of living, period. Everything's desire based, everything's based on truth. And then I just do what I love. So it's not about like, how can I grow this month? How can I get more of this month? It's just like, I don't give a fuck. I'm doing my life's work. If I'm inspired to come on, I was inspired to be here. We're here. Like, that's it. I don't
Yeah.
care where this leads. This is my life's work moving through me. And anything else, I've just control alt delete out of my hologram. I don't even engage with it. I only do what I love. I've restructured everything in my life's work so that it feels like this all the time. And then I lose track of time and I'm like, okay, we got to wrap it up. But is there
Well,
anything to share with me?
just
What do we
just
want to
to
close
share with
on?
you what I love and what I love to close this out of what you just said there, like that it's not even your business, that it's your life's work. Like I feel the same. I call this like this is my God's work. God signs the paychecks. I am
Yep.
here to be the truth of who I am. I am here to be the conduit for God. And so anything that doesn't feel that essence, it's a no. So
Yep.
it's podcasts like this, it's writing books, it's speaking from stages, it's the work with my clients that brings me into, yeah, this is being the vessel for God. This is the holy work.
Yes. Period. So last thing, let's take a moment since this is going on both of our podcasts. Can you hold up your book? Can you tell us just like a few things that we need to know about who this book is going to serve and where we can get this book?
Spiritual Smackdown, the title that you can see up above that, or the line is When God Spoke, Everything Changed. This is a book that's going to bring you into the truth of who you are. It is not gentle spirituality, it is deep divine remembrance. You're going to hold this book, you're going to read this book, and you're going to cry with me. You're going to laugh. You're going to cry. Like I said, there's going to be parts that are likely triggering for you, but it
Mm,
really is to bring you back into that divine remembrance of self, to activate you in your power, in your choice, in your truth, in your sacred wisdom that already lives within you. So it's not about adopting my wisdom, it's allowing this book to guide you into your own wisdom. And I mean,
mm,
this is just being released, and so you
yeah.
can get it wherever you get your books. I'm having lots of conversations on my podcast, lots of conversations on my social media, my Instagram. So come find me. Let's if you don't know me already, come find me and let's open this conversation.
Mm, yeah. Everyone listening on my podcast, go find Jaclyn, find her book. We'll link the book. It'll be on Amazon, I assume, something like
Yeah.
that. Okay,
Yeah.
we'll link that
Yeah.
100%.
Okay. And
Okay.
you share. Come on.
Okay. So this is my book, Unfuckable, if you're watching on YouTube. Um, this book is for the person who is ready to step into, in layman's terms, their main character energy. Like it really is like you read this book, you exit the simulation, you exit the matrix, and you start to genuinely believe that you are God on earth and you start to live that way. It's like it's an install that I can't even say it. You just have to read it. This came through me. This book came through me like fucking childbirth. It was like, it's happening. It's happening. And it was like, "Wah!" And it just came ripping through me. This is the install. It's electric. It will force you to remember who the fuck you are. You will wake up to the simulation and you will go, no, no, no. I'm the master now. You will master life. You will know who you fucking are and how you want to live, and you will literally delete anything that is not in complete alignment with that. This is something I recommend everyone. I've had a 90-year-old man read my book and he said, he's like, I'm one chapter in, you are the smartest person I know. Doesn't matter how old you are, doesn't matter what your story's been up until now. Get this in your fucking hands. I'll link it as well.
Oh
My
my
whole
gosh.
my whole crew knows. My whole crew, podcast crew's read it, but your crew, like put those in combination, like boom,
I
boom.
was I was just gonna say, like, I love that you and I haven't read each other's books yet. Like, I am like now going immediately to get
Yes.
Unfuckable with you're getting Spiritual Smackdown, and I do feel this already without having read your. Obviously, I know what I wrote, but without having read your book, I felt that energy. What you're talking, like these two books together, are like a powerful combo.
So powerful. So get it. Thank you for being with us. You deserve to live a life you love. Thank you.